So today is the first day that we are starting a series of engagements to showcase the wonderful work our entities have been doing. And I won't say much. Pretty shortly, I will invite the Director General of the State Interests and Governance Authority, Honorable Stephen ASAMOAH-BOATENG, to give us a welcome address to officially, the opening remarks, I beg your pardon, to officially tell us why we're here and what the expectations will be over the next 2 hours. Thank you very much. Let's give him a round of applause.
Good morning to everybody. Good. First of all, let me welcome the media, our colleagues and friends who are in the media and here this morning. Indeed, this is a program we've put together to get you to be engaged with our SOEs. And so you are basically our guest. You are a special guest to us. And from you, we believe that our message and our work we're doing will reach every corner of the country. We also welcome the two bosses of Ghana Gas and BOST. We welcome you very much, my brothers. We've been together in the trenches for a while with one motive: to be able to turn around these businesses for the benefit of the country. So welcome you. Then my own team, State Interest and Governance Authority, thank you for coming as well to grace this occasion. Let me just say that media, I'm addressing you and obviously the country. You've heard the MD for Ghana Gas over a period, in fact, since he assumed a responsibility as the MD there, he's been engaging the media quite frequently. I know of instances where he's taken the media on a tour in Atuabo. And I know all the information that he's churned out, and it's out there. I also know that my brother EDWIN, BOST, has also been engaging you. Similarly, all the other CEOs, not all of them, but most of them have been talking. Unfortunately, it appears that the message gets down by a day or two and just disappears. Then we get the feedback that we are not engaging the Ghanaian public. We have some good news within the sector, yet nobody gets to know. So basically, today is a beginning of a new thing. Whilst they have their corporate affairs offices to regularly do that, and we encourage them to do that, we have set up a 1 day of the week where we invite our CEOs and MD, Director Generals, to come in and re-emphasize the work they've been doing, which it's already out there in some form or the other. And so that's a new one, but it's not just going to go away as you used to be, and then a new message comes across, it wipes it away. We're going to follow up. My corporate affairs team will be following up with you, and we ensure that the benefits to the Ghanaian is highlighted. And of course, also have feedback from you. So if there are things that you've picked up on your rounds as media personnel and are not necessarily good, we need to know, so that those feedback we can put it to the MDs and the CEOs and can correct it. The thing about this is working as a team and working together so that we all achieve the purpose in which we were set up. So having said that, let me welcome you to SIGA, State Interest and Governance Authority building. It's our conference room. And you know what we do. State Interest and Governance Authority is about 1.5 years old, passed by Parliament in May 2019, inaugurated or signed by the President in June and inaugurated by President in August. And for the 1.5 years, we have been actively putting our structures together and make sure that all the divisions that we have are well manned and the competent professional expertise are there to be able to deal with the situations in our SOEs, joint venture companies, and all other state entities. But basically, our job is to administer and oversee the activities of these SOEs, JVCs, and OSCs, and to make sure that they run them efficiently, as well as effectively produce the services and the products, and be able to serve the Ghanaian public. Where they are commercially set up, we expect them to be making profits and invariably pay something back to the state, and in which we can then also, as a state, deliver the services to the Ghanaian. And so those are the things. Those that were not set up for commercial purposes, we also ensure that their services are to the highest standard, so that you go to pay your bill, you don't have a problem there, or if there are problems with connection of your electricity or whatever, there are people, professionals who attend to you on time. So there are responsibilities for them to deliver to the people. But this morning for me is to us is a new engagement and to work together as a team. In this modern world, especially with the COVID, which has become a way of working again in a modern way, technology has been part of the central element that we work with. And so whilst we engage you here today, we will be online, our social media networks will be working. We would be opening ourselves up to the public to feedback online, and then those comments will be passed on and worked on. And those are the areas I want us to keep in mind today. In the midst of COVID, I can tell you that we have success stories around. Often we hear of bad news or news that are sensational and not necessarily telling the good story. I've been a Minister of Information, so sometimes I know the news that attracts you. I say bad news sells. If a dog bites a man, there's no difference. There's nothing wrong. The dog will always be able to bite a man. But if the man bites the dog, that's a sensational story, and that's what you probably are trained to look for. But there are good stories that, for me, not just as a story, it's an encouragement to us that we are working in the midst of the COVID, where most nations are struggling or putting all their resources to revive the economy. We are doing far better, and that's the success story that we want to send out today. For this maiden edition of this media engagement, we are honored to have our two CEOs, one MD, one CEO here, Dr. Ben Asante, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Gas, National Gas Company. Doc, wave your hands so they can see you. We have the MD of Bulk Oil Storage and Transportation, BOST, we commonly call, EDWIN Alfred Provencal. He's here. So our distinguished guests and aides will be sharing the success stories of their various through very brief presentations, and then we would give room for question and answer so that they can clarify areas you are not too sure about. And as I said earlier on, this is being instituted by SIGA to update the Ghanaian public and to kickstart the continuous engagement of winning together, working together, real-time discussions amongst the stakeholders for the good news that is happening to be known. I must also acknowledge that much as these success stories need to be highlighted with you, the citizens, the media play the key important role of linking us up, and you must also give us feedback as much as you can. So without much ado, I will call on the CEO of Ghana Gas, Dr. Ben Asante, to come and take the podium and give us the presentation, and then we engage you briefly, and then he will take leave of us, and then we have BOST here with us. Thank you and welcome. Yes, thank you. We have our minister in our midst. You obviously recall that the president has created a new ministry. Whilst ministries were being merged and put together, a new one emerged. and that's significant, Minister for Public Enterprises, in the person of Honorable Joseph Kujo, is here, who happens to be the Member of Parliament for Efia in the Takoradi municipality. So, Minister, welcome, and we got our two CEOs, MD and CEO, to engage the media and, of course, the Ghanaian public and tell the success stories in the midst of all the difficulties of COVID, but also to say that we have come to do a job and Ghana is working. So we have Dr. Ben ASANTE to start with, and he would then engage the media for a while, and then he would take leave of us. Then we have Mr. Provencal EDWIN to be with us, and then we can engage. Adrian, in the roundup, I would want you to round up, Minister, and give us a brief of what you are coming to help us with, so that SIGA would take its rightful place. So I'm done. We're waiting for, I think, the presentation of Ghana Gas.
Good morning, and thanks, Mr. Director General, Minister of State Enterprises, Honorable Kujo, good friend of mine, the Director General, SIGA, his deputies here, certainly the staff of SIGA, thanks for putting this together, and our friends from the media. It's a real honor, really. I love to meet with the media and actually share not just our success stories, but also some of our challenges, so you can propagate them to the rest of Ghana and, of course, those who would hear us. Today's is going to be different. I probably would lay emphasis let me see. I think this is a little different. Just 1 minute. Let me make sure that we get the correct one. Absolutely. And we're just going to start about who we are. I think a bit of our history, our vision. So our vision. Then we'll talk about our 3 development pillars. Then operations. We will touch on indigenization, basically using local content, local intellectual capital for operations, and then the increase in flows that we've engendered, essentially to address issues of doomsday, of course, as you know, and more importantly, actually replacing liquid fuel with gas. And then the financial turnaround that Ghana Gas experienced in the early years and continues to see that. I'll talk briefly also about our expansion plans, what we wish to do in the future, and then our corporate social responsibility, and our personnel, very dear to us, and of course, some 1 or 2 challenges that we're facing. Ghana Gas is a very young company. It's just 10 years old, and I want to take this opportunity to actually invite you to our 10th anniversary. I think you'll be informed ahead of time what we'll be doing. So July really was, 2011 was when Ghana Gas was incorporated, with a responsibility to build, own, operate infrastructure that gathers gas, processes it, and then of course transports it to the market centers where they are sold. Our vision is very simple: to be an integrated company that, of course, fosters reliability of gas services and, more importantly, gas delivery. The mission is to contribute to Ghana's industrialization, again, in a very safe and cost-effective manner and environmentally responsive, doing our gathering, processing, and transportation of gas. We have 3 development pillars, I think, and they span business development. Business development, looking at what we do on a daily basis, which is operation. On a daily basis, what we do is basically move gas from the source, process it, and send it to where they will be used for power generation and for non-power applications as well. So we do that on a daily basis, 24/7. So we are on a rotation basis here operationally. We change shifts and we ensure that gas is supplied to both Takoradi and Tema enclaves so we can generate power and also some for non-power application. Then on a regular basis, we also do maintenance of our infrastructure to preserve the integrity of our facilities. And then the last leg of the business development pillar, which is the expansion. So when as needed, particularly when our flows increase, we have to put in infrastructure that will handle the incremental flows that are coming through. So that's our business development pillar. Then personnel and staff development. I'm a teacher, and I take it very seriously when I talk about building capacity for people to actually, in this case, handle operations of our system. I think it is important that we develop our indigenous capital and indigenous intellectual capital. And that is the only way we can sustain an industry such as ours. So we take that very seriously as well. Now, we've done that in Ghana Gas, and we urge others to also follow suit. The last pillar, which is not the least, is our community development and engagement. And here we strive to be good corporate citizens in the project-affected communities and actually beyond as well, because our products go beyond the project-affected communities. Very simple. This is life at Ghana Gas. Operations, maintenance, and expansion. But if you've heard of our products as well, we do produce lean gas that actually is used for power generation. Then LPGs, we produced about 40 to 50% of the total demand in Ghana. And then pentanes. Pentanes is another hydrocarbon, a byproduct of ours, which is a heavy hydrocarbon. And then the heaviest of them is the condensate, which is usually C6 plus, which is hexane and heavier components of the hydrocarbon chain. So this is where we've been. We started off in terms, actually middle of 2015. I would say April of 2015. That's when we went into commercial operation. So of the 10 years that I'm talking about, the first 4 years were used in construction and installation of our infrastructure. And the next 6, as we see them today, has been in commercial operation. And we started off with an offshore pipeline, 12-inch and 58 kilometers. This is the line that links the Jubilee FPSO. And it's laid on the sea floor. And it comes up to Atuabo in the western region. So this is the pipeline that brings the raw gas to the processing plant to be processed. That is what we had to start with. And then it comes to the processing plant. The processing plant has got a capacity of 150 million standard cubic feet per day. We call them SCFs. Okay. Now essentially all that does really is basically to take the heavy hydrocarbons in the form of LPGs and condensates, and the lean one goes to Takoradi and now currently to Tema as well. Now, I want you to go back and let me just emphasize something. For every 100 units of raw gas that comes through, 90% of it is lean gas, and 10% only is what is used to generate the liquids. Again, of the 100 units, or any 100 units, if it's 200, it's still 10% of it. But 90% of it is what really is called the lean gas that is used for power generation and currently for non-power applications as well. 10% is converted into liquids. Liquids, namely LPGs, as well as condensates and pentanes. Please can take us back now. Okay. And then once the gas is processed, that 90% is put in 111 kilometer 20-inch pipeline from Atuabo all the way to Abuazi Enclave for power generation. Okay. So those are the three pieces of infrastructure that form the original Western Corridor infrastructure that culminated in the formation of Ghana Gas. We have installed since then also a 20-inch line from ASAMOAH going to Prestia. So we are coming inward into the country now. And in addition, we also installed a compressor for the de-ethanizer. Then a loading gantry for the LPGs, where the LPGs will now be offloaded into trucks and sent to the station. We've also added compression to our pipeline system. This one at Sanzuli. That will allow us to increase the capacity from a measly 135 initially to 3 times that, which is about 405 million standard cubic feet. And of course, you've all heard about the car power relocation. With that, we had to lay a 10-inch line. A 10-inch line, I think 8 of them was onshore and 2 of them across the sea to get to the car power badge. And that was very significant because there we were able to actually change from heavy fuel oil, it's very expensive, now to gas, indigenous gas that we are using. So that would be where we actually were starting off from for the first 3 years. Yeah, can we go on, please? And those of you who may have paid us a visit in the past, we're renting facilities in someone's house. We actually, this is really someone's house, it's family and stuff. And we went to rent it. That was what it was up to 2018 May. Now let's see what. Now we've bought our own place. We own it. So we bought our own place, and it's a 4-story building. And so we're very proud of that building. So this is our new head office. We didn't stop there. We also continue to build an operations office in Nzema, AB Bukazo. So this is the offices for all our operators over in Nzema. And it's called the gas complex. Thank you. Yep, can continue. I think by far this is our proudest moment. When Ghana Gas started operation, the plant and the associated pipelines were being operated by 52 Chinese. We're being paid quite a lot, $3.5 million a month. So our operators were kind of casual onlookers as to what the Chinese were doing. Fast forward to 2017 March, we decided, no, we need to build that capacity of our local engineers, men and women, to take custody of these operations, the operating floors, and operate the system. It looked really daring, but it had to be done. And we thought the earlier the better. So what we did was we, told the Chinese respectfully to leave us. And then our men and women, of course, we trained them to be able to handle the consoles and of the operating floors, what happens there. And they took over. March 2017. Nothing has happened yet. It's been going smoothly. No lost time to injury, as we call it. And you find that every space is occupied by Ghanaian engineers and technicians. I think that's laudable. And consequential damage, doing that, we're able to save $3.5 million. Of course, doesn't hurt. So that is something that we looked at and said, well, if our engineers have been able to save this much, maybe we should take just a bit of the money saved from the Chinese to bump up their salaries. So that's what we did. For all the staff in Ghana Gas, we raised their salaries to be able to encourage them really to handle the operations of our system. Now, the significance of this, noteworthy. Look at our friends in Nigeria. It took them about 50 years for them to become fully indigenized. By that I mean, it took 50 years for foreigners to leave operations of Nigeria's oil and gas sector. In Trinidad, who has 100 years history of operation, took them 40 years before the Conoco's and all those left. In Ghana, and indeed for Ghana Gas, it's taken less than 3 years to become fully indigenized. And again, it's something that we are proud of. But we were looking at actually building intellectual capacity. That's what we wanted to do. Because that is the only way you can sustain the industry. You cannot continue to rely on foreign intellectual capital. One, they just suck out everything. And two, you will be always dependent on them. So we encourage other sectors really to, as much as possible, try and indigenize the operation. Let's go on. And this will be the flow profile as we've gone along. You may look at the red numbers. We started out with a measly 50 million scf of gas for power generation. So we still had to rely on a bit of liquid fuel to supplement our thermal generation, and also, of course, gas coming from Nigeria. Then we increased it to 60, then 85 in 2017. Then 2018, 125, 140, 200, and today, our indigenous sources of gas is as much as 280 million scf. And I think that is also noteworthy because there we do not have to rely on liquid fuel. You need money for that. So there's some savings, of course, in Forex as well, in importing liquid fuel to man our thermal generation. I think the other thing just up of that is the LPG production as well. So we are currently providing about 40 to 50% of the LPG demand in Ghana as well. So some of the details are here. So you can see what has happened in 2016, then 2017, then 2018. You see that we've actually turned a corner just with those decisions to first limit our operating costs, and then of course also increase the flows, which increase our revenues. So that's how our finances looked. Now, what do we want to do in the future? We are looking at a couple of projects, about 8 of them. The first is to have a second train. A second train will be another gas processing plant north of where we actually have the first train now. That will increase our capacity from the current 150 to about 240 or even upwards of about 300 million scf of gas. We've completed the FEED for that. Then we are also looking at installing a pipeline onshore between Takoradi and Tema. Now remember, Takoradi and Tema are the 2 critical load centers in terms of gas demand. And it doesn't make sense to just rely on one pipeline that is being operated by a third party, WAPCO. They own it. So it makes sense to have one onshore that will be operated by as well, if nothing at all, to ensure reliability of delivery between the 2 critical load centers of Takoradi and Tema. I'm sure you've also heard in the last 2 weeks about a pipeline that we are installing, Istia. I want to make Kumasi another hub for power generation. If you think about it, all our thermal generation plants are littered along the coast. For the first time, we want to make sure that we have some thermal generation mid-country to support deliveries also going north as well. So that will be the pipeline. That pipeline is definitely going to help provide gas for that thermal plant. But that's not the only thing. The Hinahini bauxite also will need some combined heat and power. And the gas will help with that mineral processing, especially bauxite in that enclave. Then there's the mainline compressor also at Atwabo. And I mentioned that, and this is the 3rd unit that will be coming on to increase the capacity and also handle more flow. The 5th one is a pipeline to Ivory Coast. I've had a couple of visits, and the first one actually with your minister sitting here to Ivory Coast, to be able to supply them gas, indigenous gas. If you think about it, the Ivory Coast border is only 52 kilometers away. Our nearest demand point, Takoradi, is 111 kilometers away. So the Ivorians better take advantage of the nearness, the proximity of our plant to their enclave or power stations. And we've had discussions with them, and I think that project is going on fine. We are still at the conceptual stage, but I think it's going to go on. When you think about it, their option really is to import gas from somewhere, and I think Ghana will be the place for them. Fertilizer project, working with the Ministry of Food and Agriculture. It's about time that we use our indigenous resources, in this case gas, to produce fertilizer. Gas will give you nitrogenous fertilizer, and then you can add onto that the phosphorus and of course the potassium, and you get your NPK with that blend. And we think that will be revolutionary, to be able to use gas to actually produce fertilizer for our country. So we don't have to be importing fertilizer, and more importantly, subsidizing for our dear farmers. So this also will be a game changer for us. We're working with the Ministry of Food and Agriculture on that. Compressed natural gas. I think I bolded it by accident. But you've all heard about the trains that are coming to Ghana. A whole ministry has been set up to actually develop our train networks. Now, most of these trains actually use diesel to power their engines. But guess what? Now we can use compressed natural gas. Natural gas that has been compressed by 60 times. So it's very dense. And you can put it in the tank and it can drive the train engines. It's cleaner for one thing, and it's much cheaper. And more importantly, it's indigenous resource. And it saves close to about 60% of our operating cost. Why don't we do that? So again, that is something that Ghana Gas takes very seriously. And we partner the Ministry of Railways to do that. LPG bottling plant to be sited in Axim. 6 licenses have been released by MPA. I think we are all witnesses to that unfortunate incident at Atomic a couple of years back. I won't go into the details, but it was on the heels of that the government and indeed MPA said, okay, hang on, now we're going to actually load our LPGs in a remote location, put them in these small cylinders, and then take those cylinders to the stations so that you and I can go and exchange our depleted cylinders with filled ones. Most of you are too young to remember the days of Easy and Stevenson. As I'm not sure whether you remember those times where you take your empty cylinder and go and change them for filled ones. So that's something that we are also taking seriously. So these are the projects, selected projects, that we intend to embark on for the benefit of Ghanaians. We can go on. Our corporate social responsibility has 6 thematic areas: education, health, water and sanitation. Yeah, we can go on. Then road infrastructure. Then we also are supporting the security services. Okay? Ghana Gas infrastructure is a very sensitive one. One is very close to the Ivory Coast border. So we do support our security services to offer us security, and also for us, of course, to make their lives more comfortable. So we've done some renovation, both for the police and the army in ASAMOAH and Yenase as well. Skills training for the locals to be able to come and help with the operation of our infrastructure. So we are very proud of that as well. Our staff, again, that has been the progression of the growth of our staff to be coincident with the growth that we've seen in our operation. So we started out with about 265, and now we are almost about twice that. So yes, I mean, it's not all roses and peaches. So there are some few things that, of course, we could use some help with. The first one is payment of what is due us. I think you've all been hearing time without end Oh, now this one owes this, ECG owes this, and yeah. Gas at the end of 2020 December was owed about $845 million. About half of that belongs to GMPC. So the cost, the composite cost, was the gas for GMPC, and then the services provision from Ghana Gas, processing and transportation, also attracted about half that amount of money. So that's where we sit. But I would say that the government, working with other agencies, now have instituted the cash waterfall mechanism and the clearinghouse, where every collection associated with gas is brought to a port. And everyone who contributed to the generation of power that ECG sells gets paid accordingly, according to your equitable contribution to that power generation. We also are working at the ministry that is working on providing some clarity on the institutional roles as well as the regulatory roles for our sector. So with that, I want to thank you very much for your attention, and I'll be happy to take any questions that you have.
Right, thank you very much. So we'll take some questions, and the way it's going to go is that we'll take a few, let's say 3, that he will answer. Because of time constraints, we might not be able to take so many questions. I hope you would bear with us since our dignitaries will have to go. So let's see who wants to ask the first question. So Armstrong.
All right, then. My name is Joseph Armstrong. I work with TV3, Media General. So my first question is just to ask, we are told that there is a lot of unutilized gas at the field. I mean, how true is it? And what plans are we putting in place to ensure that we maximize the use of the gas on the field? And also the last question is, can you update us on the indebtedness to Nigeria, if you still owe Nigeria? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Kweku Steven. I'm with Oman FM. You mentioned about 8 projects, which of course you'd love to embark on. There were no timelines attached to these projects, and then the cost involved. So if you could also highlight on that. Thank you.
My name is Emmanuel Awajiri from Asase Radio. Now, I would want to find out from you, we've also heard about LNG. What is your role with regards to LNG supply? And if you, I mean, does it mean that you can't, Ghana Gas is not in the position to, churn out LNG, and for that matter, for which we are going to import some LNG into the country? And then also the gas supply from the various fields. I think it is because of the fact that we cannot contain, or Ghana Gas cannot contain the processing of all these gas. That is why we earlier signed some agreements like take or pay gas agreements. And how are you hoping to expand your capacity to contain all these gas from the current fields and the upcoming fields as well?
Right, so thanks for your questions. He will take these questions and answer them.
Thank you very much. I think I'll start with a friend from TV3, Armstrong, that is, and it has to do with unutilized gas. I think if you think about it, some of the questions posed seem to be saying the opposite of each other. In some sense, we are hearing about bringing in more gas through LNG, and I'll address that LNG issue. But then we're also saying that, but there's unutilized gas, so I'm going to address that. First of all, there really is not an unutilized gas that would sustain itself perpetually. Currently, because of the demand that's today, our indigenous supply, namely Sankofa and also Jubilee and 10, are capable of producing, I think, close to about 200 in Sankofa's case, and then about 130 in Jubilee's case. So that's about 330 from indigenous supply alone. What is our demand? our demand in terms of both power, gas to power, and non-power application is close to about 360 currently. In some cases, when the demand has risen, it goes as much as 380. So you see that we are really on the cusp of balancing our supply and demand now. So then what's the need for the LNG? LNG is not only an additional source of supply, but it's also a strategic one. I tell you, LNG is the only source of gas that can be stored. Gas, unlike crude oil, is not stored. Pipeline gas is used as it comes. LNG you can store for some time and release it when and as you need it. But more importantly, the LNG that is coming is also to address the non-power applications of the sector. We are talking about fertilizer. Fertilizer alone is going to eat about 110 million standard cubic feet of gas. Then we are also talking about gas for mineral processing in the Inahini and the Tiwa area. That is going to be significant. I will not even mention the plans for railways. So non-power application of gas is just interminable. Now, the issues that we've had over the years is that we can make a forecast in terms of demand or supply. And on the demand side particularly, we have to convert those forecasts, we have to convert those predictions into consumption. And you do that with infrastructure. So I'm glad you asked the question about infrastructure. Now, there really isn't the link between LNG and Ghana Gas's infrastructure. No. When you think about even the allocation of the LNG port and the Ghana Gas processing plant, they're about 400 kilometers away. So LNG would have been needed whether Ghana Gas's infrastructure in terms of processing was there or not. Now remember, it's not just Ghana Gas's call to make some of these infrastructure installation. We also have to be talking to those who are actually producing the gas. Ghana Gas is a deliverer of gas, not a supplier. I make the distinction between gas supply and gas delivery. Someone has to make the gas available. That is the supplier of gas, the commodity. Then someone has to deliver it through processing and transportation. And that's Ghana Gas's call. If the supply is not available, the delivery ain't going to happen. All right? The take or pay, again, I'm not sure I quite got the linkage between take or pay, and the only take or pay gas that we have today is actually that from ENI. That contract was signed a long time ago. And I tell you, even though I say everywhere that the gas is expensive, it also offers some reliability of supply. It is the only firm supply gas that we have in the country. And I want to emphasize that. We talk about Jubilee and 10 supply, but those are not firm supply. We call them interruptible supply. In other words, Jubilee can stop the supply anytime, or 10 can stop it with no consequential damage, no liquidated damages. But ENI cannot, because ENI has promised to give firm delivery, firm supply of gas. So normally we don't actually add interruptible flow to firm flow. And you always need to have some reliability of supply with that. Hope that is clear. So take or pay really does not have any relationship with what is happening with Ghana Gas installation of that plant. Okay. I think I'm missing one. The cost and schedules of our plans. Yeah, there were 8 plans that we had over there. I think it's something that I can get to you. I just thought I would just share the plans with you. But yes, we definitely do have the schedules and the cost for them. So I'll make sure we get those to you.
Right. Thank you very much. I think that because of time constraint, we will have... your question was not answered.
Yeah. Okay. Now, I wouldn't have first-hand information on that. Um, and I think I could check with the ministry and also with VRA. VRA is the one who has that contractual relationship with them. But I think I can check and let you have that. But I understand that they continue to pay. And what is more important, we have actually limited the amount of gas we're taking from Nigeria because we have our own indigenous supply. So even if there was something there, I don't know, about $30 million or something, it is certainly not welling up because now we are actually supplying our enclave with gas and taking only minimum amount of gas from Nigeria. We've gone from as much as 100 million scarves to about 30. That is significant. And that 70 gap, that 70 difference is being made up from our own indigenous supply. If you heard about the reverse flow of gas from Takoradi to Tema, that was the import of that, to be able to use our own indigenous gas for thermal generation in the Tema enclave. So it's as much as 70 million scarves that is being made up by our own indigenous gas.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Ben ASANTE. We can give him a big round of applause as we continue with. So it's now the turn for BOST to do the presentation. Let's welcome the MD for BOST to do his presentation now. We can give him a round of applause, please.
I think Ghana Gas deserves another round of applause. Okay, so it's the turn of BOST. My name is EDWIN Provencal, and I'm happy to account for our stewardship in BOST. So with your permission, Honorable Minister, with your permission, Honorable Minister, with your permission, I'm going to start. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so I know BOST has been in the news for a while. Initially, it wasn't for the good reasons, but lately, we've been in the news for some very good reasons. What I'm going to share with you today is to try and let you appreciate the role BOST plays in the sector and in the country. So I'll talk about our mandate, our vision, mission, and core values. And then we'll talk about some challenges. As of 2017, the status of BOST. And then we'll look at the turnaround story. And then lastly, the way forward for your company, BOST. So in terms of our mandate, BOST has 3 key mandates. The first one is to develop and maintain a national network of facilities for the bulk storage, transportation, and distribution of petroleum products in Ghana. So we are expected to develop facilities to store the products, to transport the products, and also distribute the products across the length and breadth of the country. Now, this mandate is so important because that is the reason why petrol in Accra, for example, is the same cost as petrol in Bolga. I'm sure you are all aware that it takes some cost in terms of infrastructure to move the petrol from Accra to Kumasi. However, the government absorbs that cost and passes it on as a public good. Now, the second one is to build strategic reserve stocks of petroleum products to meet a minimum of 6 weeks of national consumption. If something happens in Ghana today, we are supposed to have stock that would last us for about 6 weeks. That is the mandate that we have. And the third is to import petroleum products to ensure fuel security in the country, and then also export to the neighboring countries to improve the bottom line. I'm sure you're all aware of the positioning of Ghana in West Africa. We are surrounded by our neighbors and also some neighbors in the landlocked countries. Those landlocked countries can only have access to the sea through the countries who are bounded by the sea, which is Cote d'Ivoire, Nigeria, etc. To advantage of this opportunity to improve on their export revenue. So Ghana is also positioned to export to these countries. So that is our third mandate. Next slide. In terms of our vision, we aspire to be the #1 logistics business in West Africa by 2024. It's an ambitious vision, but it's achievable. And in terms of our mission, we intend, or we do manage the business of storage and transmission, focusing on excellence in security, safety, and profitability. Next slide. Our values, passion, performance, and integrity. And we are en route to living our values one day at a time. In the past, we were not living it, but currently I can say that we are trying our best to live these values of passion, performance, and integrity. Next. So this is the BOST network, i.e. this is your network. So we have the vessel which comes to the Atlantic Ocean, and then we have the CBM which connects to Tor, and then our Tema depot. Now this then, it's distributed across the length and breadth of the country through Mamiwata, Akosombo, and then onto the barges to Buipe, and then there's a booster station at Savelugu which helps us pump the products all the way to Bolga so that we can export to the rest of the countries. From Tema, we are able to access Kumasi through bulk road vehicles. You know, the big trucks that you see around carrying fuel from one place to the other. And in Takrady, the depot is not live. It's a planned depot. We hope to have presence in Takrady as well. Now you can see that there are existing pipelines from the CBM through Mamiwata, Akosombo, and also from Buipe to Bolga. These are the existing pipelines. The pipeline to Kumasi is not operational yet. The feed is ongoing and it will be constructed in due course. And so in a nutshell, this is the BOST network. And if we're able to do this very, very efficiently, we can help in the development of this economy by reducing the price at the pump. The cheapest mode of transportation here is the pipeline, followed by the barges. And the most expensive mode of transportation is the trucks. At a certain point in time in 2017, almost 98% of all our transportation were through the trucks, the most expensive mode. So it bears to logic that if we're able to reduce the volumes, the transportation cost, obviously the public can benefit at the pump if we use the barges or the pipelines. Next slide. Next slide. So as of January 2017, this was the story. We hadn't had the company didn't have audited accounts from 2015 and 2016. I'm sure all of us know the role audited accounts play in the management of a company. There was none. And so it made us quite very unattractive, because anytime you go out to go and look for you didn't have audited accounts. We also owed GRA a lot of money. We hadn't paid our taxes from 2014. We had some challenges with the off-spec products. I'm sure you all remember, where 3 million liters were sold to unlicensed entities. For trade, we had a huge trade debt of $624 million. Not cedis, of $624 million. With the legacy loans of about 273 million Ghana cedis. We had some of our stakeholders, the BDCs, who had claims on BOST up to a tune of about $36 million. And then the BOST margin, which is supposed to be used to operate and maintain the BOST facilities, the BOST margin was at 3 pesos. Now, this BOST margin at 3 pesos was given to, was levied in 2011. So since 2011 to 2017, the BOST margin remained at 3 pesos. Now, if you go back to 2011 and you look at the dollar value of 3 pesos, and you come back to 2017 and look at the dollar value of 3 pesos, you would come to a conclusion that the margin had been totally wiped off. And so that was the situation. But that also may be linked to why a lot of our facilities were also out of service, because we had our 100% of our pipelines out of service. We also had 100% of our marine assets out of service. We had huge capital work in projects, significant number of uncompleted projects, lack of maintenance in the depots. So this was the impact. It was almost impossible to achieve any of our mandates because we were financially unattractive, so we couldn't bring in imports as we are expected to. Our strategic reserves were depleted totally, and also the strategic reserve levy had been taken out. In terms of infrastructure, there was no way we could meet the 6 weeks mandate as well, because our infrastructure, 30% of the depots were not, 50% of the depots were not working, etc. So it was not a good situation. Next slide. Now fast forward to today. What have we done so far? On the financial side, with the help of government, we've been able to clear almost 96% of our legacy trade debts. The $624 million, we've been able to clear 96%. The rest is work in progress, and hopefully by the end of this year, the rest will be cleared. In terms of the Ghana Commercial Bank loans, through our internally generated funds, we've been able to pay off the loan completely. Our UBA loan, we paid it off completely. Our Stanchart loan, we negotiated with them, brought it down from 137 to 100 million, and we've cleared that loan as well with the help of government. Our UMB loan, we cleared it fully. And then the BDC claims, that hovered around $36 million. we commissioned an audit into it again and realized that the claim was actually around $10 million, not $36 million. Because we, we did some forensic audit around that. And this audit was done with internal staff. The previous audit was done by one of the big four. That came to $36 million. We got our own staff to motivated them to do the audit properly, and it came down to $10 million, saving $26 million for the state. Key successes in terms of the tanks, the 15 tanks that were not operational, we have currently repaired 6 of them at Tema, Buipe, and Bolga. The pipeline that was not operational, the tap, has been brought to life. We've commenced a project, the feed for Accra Kumasi, the Bolga to Buipe pipeline. We fixed it, 100% working. The CBM pipeline, we've maintained it, it's working. Our barges, as we speak today, 100% of our marine assets are back online, and we are using them. We've also replaced some pumps, flow meters, etc. And this is amazing. In 2017, it took us 4 hours to load a truck end to end. One truck, it took us 4 hours. Currently, as we speak, we've brought it down to about 2 hours, 30 minutes. That is impressive. We're still not automated, but we're looking forward to automate. And once we automate, this will be brought down to about an hour. And that will be good for us. Next slide. We've refurbished the 12-inch pipeline in Houston. We're planning to bring it back to Ghana this year. And then we can start the construction of the Tema to Akosombo pipeline. We've settled our debt to the contractor in America. The Bolga depot, which was out of service, the good news is that we have brought the Bolga depot up. Now, guess what? This depot had been out of service since 2017. 16 or 17? 2016, yes. And we have staff at the depot who were paying, even though the depot was not operational. The good news is that as we speak, Bolga is back, and we've started our export operations. We negotiated with GRA as well. We've launched, for the people side, we've launched an Employee of the Year award. The first one was done last year, and it's going to be a regular thingy. So in terms of our assets, in summary, our revenue earning assets as at 2017 was hovering around 18%. In 2019, it was 34%. In 2020, it's 47%. As at today, it is 75%. And we are looking forward to bring all the assets up by the end of the year. Next. Good. Now also, when we in terms of 2017, we had only 2 or 3 policies in place. As we speak, we've operationalized 15 policies, and this was driven and chaired by the board chairman, who's done a yeoman's job to ensure that BOST runs like a proper company. So in terms of policies, this is what we have achieved so far. And going forward, this will drive the organization. Next. So for 2020 performance, this is important. So in 2019, companies started picking up. In 2020, this was our performance. So in terms storage because we store. So when we store third-party products. So when we store third-party products, we make some. They pay a fee. So if you look on the terminal side, the volumes we store increased marginally, and so our revenues on the storage increased marginally. For transmission, because we started bringing the barges up and then the pipelines back on stream, you can see that our volumes increased by over 1,000%, and that led to our revenues going up as well. For fuel trade, in 2019, you can see that we brought in only 77,000 metric tons, but in 2020 we did double of that. That meant that there was some progress. That also resulted in us having a positive margin in 2020 on fuel trading. And then with respect to our revenues, it went up as well. As you can see, that as you bring on stream your revenue earning assets and you're earning revenue, obviously your revenues will start going up. So we increased our revenues by 45% on the BOST margin. And then the last bit is the expense. In 2019, we spent about 400 million Ghana cedis. Through prudence, we're able to bring the expenditure down to 163 million cedis, a 60% reduction of operational expenditure. However, so if you go back, if you look year on year, we did very well. But when you look at to budget, we didn't do too well, even though we did better than last year, the previous year. So and I'll focus on the red. Now, we anticipated some assets to be on stream by a particular time, and so we budgeted with them. Unfortunately, they didn't happen. As we speak, some of them still hasn't happened, so we could not meet our budgeted volumes target. So you can see that for transmission, we budgeted 91,000, but we could only deliver 23,000. For fuel trade, we budgeted 420,000 metric tons. We could only do 150,000 metric tons. So those key elements didn't make us achieve our budget, but then we did better than the year before. Yes. So even though we did better than the year before, I'm sure when there are some material elements in our books that if they are not dealt with, and those are the challenges, that when they are not dealt with, the story will not be too nice. I'm sure that SIGA is working on dealing with those, and that is the only biggest challenge currently. Next. Now, so the good news is that I'm going to focus only on the last line. The good news is that in 2020, there's a management account devoid of those material elements. So in terms of the management performance for 2020, we budgeted to make a loss of 86 million cedis. Through the effort of the staff and of the board, we were able to make a profit of 31 million cedis. That is amazing performance. I mean, and once again, we budgeted to make a loss of 86 million cedis. So we don't even get to zero, but we crossed zero and made 31 million cedis profit. And this is your company. Next. So way forward, next. Yes, way forward, our strategy is to enhance operational excellence and aggressively grow our business. We think there's huge opportunity for BOST. We think BOST can work, and we know it can work because we've seen things turning around. The thing about government institutions is that when government institutions work very well, we make private sector thrive. because private sector depends on government. And so when government institutions become very, very efficient, private sector drives the economic development agenda faster. And that is our dream. And so we believe that BOST can be run like any world-class organization. It's possible. And so going forward the next 3-4 years, the focus is to enhance operational excellence, hold people accountable, and aggressively grow the business. By aggressively growing the business, we mean, as we speak, we didn't have exports. So if we decide to export aggressively, this is an existing product in a new market. So we grow the business. We also don't have some new products like LPG. So if we branch into LPG, selling LPG as well, and transporting and distributing LPG, that is a new product in an existing market, and we can help grow the business. The whole idea is to make it so profitable that we can pay dividend, and government can also have money to develop the economy as it should. But these two pillars cannot be achieved alone. We are en route of rebranding BOST, so that BOST becomes a household name to powering the economy of Ghana. So that is work in progress. And we also want to build a great culture. And when we say a great culture, we mean we want to build a culture that rewards performance. And we are en route in putting in place, saw the earlier policies. There's a performance management policy in there as well, so that we can reward the right behaviors to drive the performance that will lead to achieve the objectives, that would help us pay dividends, government will make the money to drive the economy. So in the future, this is what we want to achieve. Next. And then this is how we are going to achieve it. I'm sure you would have access to the slides later so you can look at it. But we believe that once we have the key skills in-house, we have the right information capital, we have motivated staff, we'll be able to excel in our internal business process, which will drive value to our stakeholders and help us achieve our financial objectives. Next slide. Now, in the future, I'm sure you're aware that we cannot also, if you can't measure something, then there's a saying that if you can't measure something, then don't manage it. So what we've tried to do is to quantify our vision, to say, what does our vision mean in 2024? Because that is the only way the effort depends on quantification of the vision. Because if you want to make 1,000 cities, as compared to you want to make 1 million, the effort will be different. So for every vision, in BOST, we've tried to quantify them. And so in quantifying our vision, what we want to achieve is, for turnaround time, we want to do it in 1 hour. So we want to drive from 4 hours to 1 hour for operational efficiency. And then for asset optimization, what we want to achieve is improve our assets from 18% to 70%. And you saw from the earlier slide that by 2021, this year, we would have achieved 97%. So on that one, we've already achieved that. But in terms of revenue, we wanted to grow our business from a 500 million revenue company turnover to a 3 billion turnover by 2024. So these are what we want to achieve by 2024. And we are en route. We are very sure we will achieve this before then. Next slide. Yes. So in terms of projects, Ghana Gas talked about their 8 projects. We have projects as well. For our growth projects, we want to focus on building human capital. We want to buy additional marine facilities. We need some strategic trade partners for the export business and for the LPG. We will build our new 12-inch pipeline. We will build our Kumasi pipeline, and then we'll do our LPG tanks for the new products. And then we'll repair the operational excellence side. We'll repair our existing facilities. Next slide. And the guy there, I don't want him to ask me about cost of the project, so I brought it. So these are all work in progress. Total cost is about 134 million cedis. We've currently spent about 54 million cedis. Hopefully, we can fund all of this through IGFs as we are growing. Some banks are approaching us now because now we look a little bit attractive. We may get some facilities from them as well to drive this project. So I think this is the last slide, and this is our stewardship to you, the shareholders of BOST. Thank you very much.
Right, so I think we can do better with a clap. And we're right within time. So as usual, we'll take a couple of questions and then he will answer them. We'll move on to other questions like that until our time is up.
From 2017, how many pipelines have you added so far since you came to being?
New pipelines. New pipelines, you mean? Okay.
Okay, any more questions?
Thank you. My name is Abdul Mumin. I work with the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. At a point, you mentioned the Tema Oil Refinery and the fact that you were connected with them, but you haven't told us what's the volume of business between BOST and the Tema Oil Refinery, to the extent that we're talking about petroleum products that are transported and stored. How much of that comes from within Ghana itself? Thank you.
Right. Great question.
My name is Michael. I work with City FM and City TV. For all you've showed us, especially with your financials, it looks like BOST is doing pretty well. So
we are on our way. We are not there yet.
At least better than 2017. So what then would you say to people who are calling for scrapping of the recent increase in your BOST margin? Because clearly you're doing fine.
Oh, okay. Okay. Great question. Great questions. I mean, all three. Mike, great question. I'll start with Mike's. Thank you.
All right, so I would want to find out from you, I mean, what is stopping you from releasing products onto the market? I mean, because I know that at least you are the biggest BDC when it comes to storage. So what is preventing BOST to release the products so as to reduce the cost involved in importing fuel products? Now, my second question is, aside from the BOST margin of the price, petroleum price buildup, you are also enjoying other, margins, I mean, other components. Are you not taking too much? I mean, the ones that are aimed at stabilizing prices. Is it a PMMU?
No. Okay.
I do hope the question is clear.
It's clear.
Thank you.
Clear. So, thank you very much. Anna, Sasi FM. So what is stopping us from releasing products to the market? There's nothing stopping us from releasing products to the market. We release products to the market. We store other products from other BDCs as well. And they release their products and we also release our products. However, we are constrained with the volumes we can bring in because, the banks, they look at your financials before they give you facilities. And I mentioned earlier that we are now en route to getting out of the woods, and to build confidence, it's going to take time. So we are not bringing in as much products as we would have wished to bring. And if you saw the slide on the performance, you saw the red. We plan to bring 420,000 metric tons. We're only able to bring 100,000 metric tons. So there are constraints, and the constraints are financial. We are not out of the woods yet. But other BDCs who store their products, they bring it out. We also, the little we bring in as well, we bring it out when we have to bring it out. So that should not be a big issue. But this is a temporal solution. We will definitely get out of the woods very soon. And then in terms of BOST margin, yes, we get only the BOST margin. There are other elements in the price build-up that belong to other people, but not BOST. Yes. And then scrapping of the recent, the money man. We are not out of the woods yet. And for me, what I'm fighting for is that the 3% West, the value of the 3% West should be maintained. I mean, so in 2011, that value should be maintained in 2021. It's not enough. We still need money to do the maintenance. It's money is simply for the maintenance of the facilities, and they are very capital intensive. And we need that money to keep the facilities top notch. And so we still need the money. Thank you. And then Tor, Abdul, Tor connection. Yes. The long-term strategy would be to take all the products from Tor and then offload it into the market. But unfortunately, you and I know that Tor is not operating at its maximum. There are also a lot of the products they work on today are for other people, so the people pay tolling fees. But the good news is that most of the products that we export, for example, they come from products that have been refined from Tor. So the opportunity is huge. The relationship with Tor, the opportunity is very huge. And so once Tor starts optimizing, I'm sure we'll be the natural off-taker. And it's a no-brainer at all. So that is something that we will do. I mean, unfortunately, it's not being done at the level that has to be done. And then the last one was on how many weeks of strategic reserves do we have, and whether we've built in new pipelines. I mean, if you for strategic purposes, when you arrive somewhere and 100% of your pipelines are down, what do you do first? Do you start building new ones, or you fix them? So what we've done is to fix the ones we have. I talked about ongoing works for Accra Kumasi, where the feed is ongoing. So that is the new pipeline we will add. So we haven't added a kilometer yet, but we'll add a kilometer very soon. We had to bring all our assets back on stream, and that we have done. So I'm sure that answers your question. Does it answer your question? So your question was twofold. How many kilometers have we built? I said 0. We have built 0. And the reason is that we need to use that money to bring back the assets that were offline. So that we have done. And now we are looking at adding more pipelines to the business. And then you also asked about strategic reserves. So today we have about 2 weeks. We have about 2 weeks. But there's a key point here. Even though we have 2 weeks, I will not even term them strategic reserves, because strategic reserves has to be paid for by the beneficiaries, which is the public. As I speak to you, nobody pays for strategic reserve. It's been zeroed out in the price build-up. So even though we want to enjoy that public good called the strategic reserve, you and I are not paying for it today. So if we want to benefit from the strategic reserves, then we need to put in the strategic reserve levy that will now force BOST to keep 6 weeks of strategic reserves. Two weeks. 2 weeks. So whatever, if you go to the MPA website, you'll see how much is consumed in a week, a day. You multiply by 2, that's the volume of quantity we have in our sorry, you need to address.
As a country, if all our reserves supposedly is for 2 weeks,
Yeah.
shouldn't that be a cause for concern, especially if something comes up and we are not able to get supply?
Yes, it is. But nobody is paying for it. So I'm sure you would advocate for us to restore the strategic reserve levy, so that you see, you want to benefit from a good, but you don't want to pay for it. Pardon? Okay. Then, I mean, so the 2 weeks, we'll manage with the 2 weeks.
Yeah.
what I mean to say is that it is your responsibility to ensure that we have enough for storage at your end.
Yes.
So if you are telling us it is worrying, and you should come up with something. You should say that we need this amount of levy to be added to ABC so
Yes.
that we can have this quantity of fuel.
Yes.
But 2 weeks, I mean, is disastrous.
Explaining your mandate, you said
6 weeks.
A minimum of 6
Minimum
weeks.
of 6
How
weeks.
did 6 weeks become 2 weeks?
Yeah, because initially when BOST was set up and the reserve was there, it was 6 weeks. So the levy could buy 6 weeks. But the levy has been zeroed out. That's what I mean. And I mean, there's no free lunch. The strategic reserve is a comfort. It's a risk mitigation strategy for the nation. It's petroleum security for the nation. Now, that reserve has to be paid by somebody called government. Now, who is government? It's you and I. So that levy, if you would, you help me advocate for the levy to be brought back, for you and I to enjoy the 6 week of strategic reserve, then that would be great. But as we speak today, that levy has been zeroed out. That's why, from our meager resources, we are able to do only 2 weeks.
So the question we're asking is that from where you stand, how much levy do you think that should be enough to restore what you are saying?
So levies are determined by MPA. So MPA, they have a way of determining, like PURC, they have a way of determining these rates, etc. So maybe I will try and engage NPA so that they give us a levy. I'll tell them that the representative of the people are willing to pay an extra to achieve 6 weeks of strategic reserve so we can bring back the levy. Yes, sir.
Thank you. We are interested in knowing. So I want to find out, even with your 2 week strategic,
Yes.
What you have. We know oil prices fell significantly last year due to the COVID. Now it's back to pre-COVID time pricing.
Yeah.
How much did you make with your strategic reserve between that period and now that the price is back up?
Great question. Unfortunately, what drove the price was storage. We had a huge chunk of our tanks out of service then. The BDCs who some of them took advantage of it. I also told you about our challenge of raising facilities to bring in products. You get what I mean? So if I don't have any facility, I can't bring in any product. So did we take advantage of the COVID? No, some BDCs took advantage. We benefited a little through our small storage, our small products that we have. But it was the BDCs that took advantage of it big time because we were constrained. We didn't have the wherewithal to bring in and it's evident in my slide where we're supposed to bring in 420,000 and we brought in only 111,000 metric tons. But other people who had storage, and the storage was not for finished products. Those who were dealing with crude, they benefited. So those who had a lot of storage for crude, they were able to store a lot and refine and bring them back onto the market.
Ladies and gentlemen, I will have to bring the question session to a close as our time is up already. It's midday, it's 12. So I must say that we're very grateful that you came, but we will give the opportunity for the Minister for Public Sector, Honorable Kujo, to say a few words, and then the Director General will close us. Thank you very much. We'll give him a round of applause.
Good morning to you all. Director General, MD of BOST, EDWIN. You know, teachers always want to move away from. I'm very happy to be here, seeing what I've seen. And I think that, Director General, you've done very well to set the ball rolling. Let me say to you that the appointment of myself as a Minister of Public Enterprises flowed from the SIGA Act itself, Act 990, promulgated in August of 2020, August 2019. And since then, Honorable ASAMOAH-BOATENG has been doing very well to operationalize the asset, the act, and which is leaving us a lot to experience so far as corporate performance is concerned. The two institutions of state, corporate, Ghana Gas and BOST, having been a former Deputy Minister of Energy, I've known these institutions very well. And we can all identify with the kind of problems that characterizes them when we took over as government. We knew the BOST problem. If you mention BOST, the name had become synonymous to losses, stealing of fuel from fuel tanks, and contamination of fuel. That was what the name had become synonymous to. If you talked about Ghana Gas, we wouldn't have heard the story of indigenizing those whole operations, making sure that Ghanaians are taking over and saving us $3.5 million in monthly salaries. $3.5 million multiplied by 12 is a lot of money in annual salaries. And these were being paid to Chinese engineers and whoever they were. But today, we are hearing very wonderful stories. But that is as a result of what His Excellency Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo has sought to do. What he's doing is simple. The state-owned enterprises, at the moment, according to the state register of specified entities, has about 175 state-owned enterprises, joint venture companies, and other state entities. In the state-owned enterprise, which is corporate, in which government has 100% shares, there are 52 of them. And joint venture companies, there are 46 of them. And then other state entities, about 77 of them. There's a big chunk of investment which the government has made. And you can imagine if these entities are operating profitably, efficiently, you can imagine what the wealth they could be creating for the state of Ghana. Today, we know they have become characterized with loss-making as we took over the reins of government in 2017 when we started. They were all making huge losses. But with the kind of appointment of managing directors, as evidenced by EDWIN, and the competence he has displayed over the few years that he's been there at BOST, and the same competence that has been displayed by Dr. Ben Asante at Ghana Gas, all of us have seen the results, which is emanating from it. The gap which we seek to plug, which is corporate governance, which becomes everything when it comes to managing enterprises of this nature, because the board of directors give direction to the management team to perform to expectation. That is now the gap which SIGA is doing everything in its power and mandate to address. When we get boards' interest aligned with the state interest, because the boards are giving directions to these corporates on behalf of the state and making sure that these enterprises operate profitably. When board interests get aligned with state interests and management team interests is aligned with board interests, then we are sure that we're going to see the kind of result that has been seen today. It is His Excellency's dream that this problem, which has characterized the country for over 60 years of our independence, and which made all state enterprises over the years never performed. but only became a drain on Ghana's budget and competed for even development efforts, such as providing public goods and services, roads, schools, hospitals. State enterprises had become a source of competition for provision of public goods and services. They were always asking for capital to run them. Very soon, sooner than later, you would see workers in red band asking for capitalization. When the state had invested a lot of money in them, in the assets they hold, and instead of using them to operate profitably, they were just running down these enterprises. The net effect being lack of growth of these enterprises to create jobs and opportunities for the teeming youth, which the universities are throwing out. So today, we are turning the story around. The MDs you heard are turning their stories around. SIGA is turning the story around. And my Ministry for Public Enterprises, is adding to that effort and making sure that a government oversight of the state enterprises and the specified entities are given meaningful direction so that at the end of the day, they will join in the wealth creation productive asset of the country. This is very necessary so that we all see the dream Ghana need to see. Because of time, I'll leave here. And I think that our subsequent engagement with my ministry, SIGA, and other state entities will see more of this and understand what we are up to and the vision of the president. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. We'll now call Honorable Stephen ASAMOAH-BOATENG to close us. And I must say that we would like to meet the journalists immediately after, right here, so don't go anywhere. So we'll have our usual interaction with you. If you also have follow-up interviews you want to conduct, please let me know so I can arrange that for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you very much, Stephen. We've had a very fruitful engagement this morning. I'm so pleased that the maiden event has taken off so well, and we're going to have this every week. God willing, we would invite 2 others next week, and you'll be here the following week, the same thing. Between now and December, we're going to go ahead with these engagements. The story that you've heard, it's across the SOEs. I came here when it was State Enterprises Commission. My general manager for operations, Hollister, was at the DIC. At one point, we couldn't even locate the offices of the DIC. But together, we've worked very hard, and that's what you've seen today with the creation of the State Interest and Governance Authority. My general manager for finance and administration, Mr. Frimpong, came on board from a, I would say, lucrative business or job and sacrificed. So we are all putting in some sacrifices here. If you look at the kind of work we put in, and the story is changing, or is changing. In fact, I know more of the success one than you do, and we would tell you all of them. And it's because the president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, basically wants a story that is different from what he said when he was growing up. We've all seen Ghana. I probably seen Dr. Nkrumah late when I was a bit young man, but I know what happened. And I've seen and heard Liman, I've seen and heard Busia, I've seen and heard Kufuor, and I was part of it. And Rawlings and Mahama and President Mills. I've seen and heard all of them. And I've also seen and heard a lot of international best practices across the world. And Ghana is moving up there. And we need you to help us, the media and the public, as we strive to turn around these businesses, to help us so that the Ghanaian will benefit from the investment of the state. We need you to engage the Ghanaian and let us know the feedback. Basically, if there are problems and challenges that they are encountering, let us know so we can also address them. So together, we work together and win together. And this is what SIGA is here to do. I'm very excited with SIGA. My team, which we've assembled, as you can see, the expert is here. We want to create excellence of public service, but with a private sector mindset, so that we work for the benefit of Ghanaian and to the glory of God. And I believe Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the president, is on course. So let's let Ghanaians know, yes, in the midst of all these, everything not covered is making us all a bit gloomy. It's not all gloomy. Government business is working. And that's what we are trying to tell you. Thank you so much, and God bless you. God bless you. Those who are here, those who want to take the tree, the Akan, the Fanti, we are prepared. My minister is here. We would engage you briefly. And those who want to report, if you want to call us on the radio later on, we'll do that. But Stephen Nancy will coordinate that, and we'll follow up. It's not just today and go tomorrow, the next day, Friday, weekend programs. We have got a lot of expertise here who we can engage to be with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So I would like our journalists to stay behind. So you meet with us, and if you have any interviews, just let me know. We'll arrange that. Thank you very much for coming. I didn't add anything to what the two honorables have said. Thank you very much.
The strategic reserve zeroed it out. And since you are zeroing it out, nobody is paying for the strategic reserve. Until 6 weeks, I say you keep your strategic reserve. And now I know because you be in Chia. Until scale me why they better toss our strategic reserve. Until you want a bedroom 2 weeks. It's a baby back and then we come full a BOST system. A baby 2 weeks. But say decided say your pesa a hot one, your pesa manages our risk until you are ready say you get your strategic reserve now. And you bet me I keep for 6 weeks. But and then once you can I say the top a stop. Would be in chia. What's your advocacy? Oh, my advocacy is it should be brought back to the drawing board so that MP will decide how much levy has to be paid to ensure that strategic reserve, they have 6 weeks. Among Ghanaians, they have the comfort they deserve and the security they deserve. Ghanaians, no, they are every 2 weeks, 1 week, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, it will not be settled.
But now, what can be said? I buy a discussion state-owned enterprises more. And you make what do I know so shall buy us in a bit in bit much in Muka.
And they are Papa. Who said, I buy a Juma, a tumpoint. Private sector, Umujame. A more private sector achieves 3, 4, 5 times what they can achieve. Because I buy Juma a kuye passport office fast. Won't spend the time they be passport office. So after time we be kuye Juma, I'm will stay. Same as BOST. Say I buy one BOST, not BOST too poor. We will use the most efficient transportation charges. Interesting. The price at the pump will be to me about form. Because instead of using 100% trucks, ABI using 50% trucks. And the overall cost no be form. A bad form man, interesting. Cost of doing business, and also a better form. Then internationally, we'll be competitive. Because we will export TB, now cost were down. You can go out there and compete with the people who are exporting from India. And the government, a Benjamin, efficient. Private sector will thrive and they will drive the government agenda of development and employment and everything. But if the cost of doing business is high, obviously you can't compete with your friends in the international or the West African continent.
Okay, my name is BOST margin. You say a scrap of fuel on the other. You say with me about my phone. But I must say maintenance works.
Who said that? Sit down there, the buyer pipeline beer say any Juman. Marine assets now say any Juman. And then depot be bria as any Juman. The one was about maintenance. Now, 3 was now Abenichi as BOST margin. And no, I'm only my 2011. Now, I said the foreign exchange. and inflation. I risk in 2019 still na 3%. And there was no way I bet me and I repair, I repair. Because our boss margin, no, it was meant for operation and maintenance of the facilities. So 3% was not enough. And Tiakopa by Cho, and eventually increase the money. Now, near the 3% no, it's equivalent to 12% today. But on one family, on my 6%, and I'm saying almost increasing. Still cry and so by the way, we'll make sure that we use it judiciously and efficiently to bring all the assets up.
Oh,
what I mean, say almost cost up. In their rights, no, I understand them. But mopa time. Na me ne monko ye depo. Depo na monko hwe ejuma e di first kanaye. Ejuma pa e di first kanaye. O depo ho. Mobeka fi am my more. Nti I think say mama public no eti ase say enya se nkrofo no ye mu sika na mama de akwa chichinga na so mu de tuechi o moka yie but sika no ye de bo aban ho ban. Ye de bo mo am ho ban. I don't think the Ghanaian doesn't want to pay, but the Ghanaians want to know that we are using it efficiently and judiciously. And then, almost. Time. The number of call from Bolga to Bupe to Sabelugu to Kumasi.
Thank you very much.
Yo.
Oh yeah, that was the canal. Baby, I mean, you State Interest and Governance Authority. It is easy, my opinion. That's here saying there. I am banning Numa. I did Hesika or man, I did Hesika Shim. Yatato to them, Electricity Company of Ghana Water, BOST, Ghana Gas, GMPC, and Ghana Airport Company. Baby, Bubozin, Odosho. Now, the Tina no be for the new show. And you man so worry you, so when you be a band be about why there were better than we be actually, but yeah, no agency, no agency. See, Mampina Kufadu Bar, North Davy, young children for his Ghana for and Captain and Capre. Me and Fancy Chu, Jumoku, me and Fampin from Catanano. Now we'll back on time to the whom yet. Now it was a cow mom was it before now you could check out. After my ministry for me, yeah, Membra, SSMBra, now I know of State Enterprise Commission, Sabakaya. Now, say you have quite a book of maybe me a Fraha warehouse, me at Tutunya Maguha. By a bomb, I say, come. Now, yes, I need a share. A abandoned man, so I was a much horror. I mean, if I'm there, or your son, mum, and bosom. Or Sunday, a human or man paying him, you pause markets out on your MD and on your CEO. Human or your expert. Any major mind, Mancoso, Nami, Yama walk him about on Fikum, now one in the year. Until Muslim by not man coming to me, so that from Munian, but like Ghana far wouldn't be Juma. And see, Obi Ho, I mean, the menu of a man who read my friend, Mr. Catchy, Nabosum, the brain and what you Juma who also want to this baby, a handful or your man, Juma, Bobwa, Bomusum, Timania experts, from the experts are. Make sure one caliber, mania or had many like the Hopper Papa. Say, incarnate as I've been putting away, and Yama. What you mean, who said, Nemu, them painful to make it painful abuse or walk Casacra. Yaka Doma Boma, experts are a pede, a banded human ye. Now you're in wash who are getting his cash in the one question also. Now one in the year, no one found for Sombra. Until now, and a Muniaco, Fancy Venanti, Muni Pampu, many who are also I expect Obama John there, and young Chassis. Now once a week bialan. Then Fred, by a BNB. Now one back to them and the now one boy, one car 7 chair, Ghana for there. In 79, what's it now? You're back come what it is. Now, Bone a journalist for the minimum. A journalist, it's I catch it. What's the local school? I was it. Say, a Bodom Kajipa, Bodom Waka, you put it Bassman. The mums and you pass a Bodom and not Oka Bodom and I said, I said, Yaba. ɔno na ayɛ amoka ho asɛm because asɛm no ntaa nsi but nsɛm bi wɔ hɔ a na ɔyɛ dɔn so hia nso mpo yɛ nka ne yie nti afei deɛ ɛsɛ yɛbɛka ne yie mɛkyɛ dɛ nti ne yɛfrɛfrɛ Ghana gas na BOST ne waaba dapɛ no a ɔbɛsi nso yɛbɛfrɛ foforɔ ne yɛato nsa afrɛ mu bio nti na ɛno yɛhyia yi
wotie ɔmo success stories ɛfa fie a baabi adwuma no firiɛ ne nneɛma akɔkɔduru a then obetumi aka fa ho with the competence and put across 175 SOEs and joint ventures ni na betumi upon you.
Moya menyi story na what? My members mati bebre because every the main starting to but neze why menyi so the mra is mo push but wa camp nyama in wa kan fefefio. O the kan is kasam. Sabi azaya na what kwa cha dey for this kind of dey. The ska ka to company na is the cowba me so we made my mo good. Menguno amoton nti abanso de madaba na mabara ne nti se edwuma no won hunu ya maka cho man pe yan ton ana ye ngu ho no won kofi but be hu da wori edwuma nti wo maka nti ye ne fa sika ne kaka nhyem na won so fa bemra na dividend nti na ye hunu che de edwuma no wori ye ne ye na ono so che de man pe nyin onyimni pa wo maka she some appointment se a appoint ni papa wo ba che sabi edwuma na mi mehu kakra medi minister da masha ma aye edwuma so ma break kakra nti ma betra hananye ago na mbezi the man na MDs na wa ban na si wo so won so nya ago no rezi ti that encourages me there say me ma won kwan na ye no zikasubom ye hwe ye a edwuma na bokoyi o ye teamwork emi men so menzen na won so wo so hode wonya problem wa abaka kire here yen so ya kaka kire man pay akaka kire parliament akaka kire minister for finance what the sika by the Ghana for the hospitals na problem ya ko munya da obi anu bofu obi ne bofu so am so no nyame de.
Okay, success stories in front of it here. That's it. Companies are out of 175 or more than so then of a control.
It be the my can if you ask the yen no oboko de ibiri ye ne bi so hozi no nkoye ti dem yeke mo an hozi nkoye yenye aban oye cabinet yezi nkomo yenye minister of finance kwa ye dem bi ho a eduma ne discussion mo fanfa so ma na ode ye pekoro bi ne ton ebi ade mo bi a there's a new impetus and also to Ghana Stock Exchange na amanfo honu aba won no ye ya list bi mo ntumu fan tu go sisi ado say ode ye ko cabinet woji tuma onche yanye Ghana Stock Exchange so yezi nkita ho yanye Securities and Exchange Commission yezi ya committee kakra na Ministry of Finance yezi dem why be man sisi ye hunu be idubi na yezi atugwa na ya frɛ ho a wokita bibi kakra wɔ ho nsɛm dɛ wɔ musom bi a ho wɔ som a ɔbɛyɛ because aban ne nya na ebotuma ayɛ sɛbe ka de wan ko be bibi antumi yɛ ewiase mɛbotumi na ayɛ na atwe ho mentumi nso pe obi bosom na ɔnyɛ ne yɛ so that it becomes a teamwork.
What hope does it give you, sir? Public enterprises get to me actually build the development process of them.
Okay, may I say, in there when you have upper public enterprises, sir. You start in film and I've read there, in the owner winning there, na Ghana, cars. I don't waffle. Ghana, electronics like Akasadoma. Obandena, Malaysia, 1 year started just around this time. 1 photon on them road. South Korea, 1 year started. 1 Kia, 1 Hyundai Onam Road. Na yen adom na boafo wakofu. Ye in Ghana ye GNTC or ye UTC. Obanden enoni ho. Nanda Melcom Oceana name. Doing exactly what they were doing. Obanden na state-owned enterprises PISRT. How do we in Ghana here safety matters? If the safety matters, all I there toothpick. And there's all Ghana and Tumpo and yet toothpick. And then, it's in Nina Neka, Nina Buma, ma Ihunye de, and state-owned enterprises, name management, Yen. Only there, a ban in Shishaya, Odisi Ho, ma a banning Juman, although managing years. Na Onko ye soda, Captain Bra, His Excellency, Nana Dankwa, Ordinary do, I didn't know the trouble. The mobile there. State-owned enterprises in Obaboni in Abu. They look at a portfolio of entities, specified entities. None management, no, or the one institution, or the one sort. So the one shareholder, them a cigarette, yes, yeah. Not shareholders, and the BPR, no, so I want that. I come edit you. And they are bad to a new orange, I don't know. Or you're different. If I them in Shishano, I want my private enterprises, you know, walk with him. Actually, MTN in there. And on ye, Ghana Telecom. Bison who then a Ghana Telecom, a Japadia or Shan one answer. I said, I know one answer. Now MTN Capital, I want the back a crabby and the MTN will take over the market. Now Ghana Telecom. On not show there. The means you say, Nana to better correct the margin. I'm a state owned enterprises also. When you, they will grow. What you know, and also over to employ graduate of university swab act. But when you not say they be a cow there 64 years, Bepim Ghana ne life, Bepim and them. Now, they be a bandage toner or did taxa or do it then. Also, so they call the Nagasa investment a YN, a better capitalization. Me who answer. And you know, Nyansa, His Excellency, only the means to say, yeah, or your Ministry for Public Enterprises, or your SIGA, or your warrior share, them investments in Nara Nodo. I'm a sure there, my what you see horse there, Yejuma Yamfason, a Yejuma in Yamfason. When you see her there, Yejumana some or mano. Na more than a year in Faso or your service. Today be a land commission, Madad land services. They be NPA, Madad services. They be a petroleum commission, Madad services. Them services no. INEA because INEA and a private sector also. Also one year a year or friend and one BPA or pen and 10 tembiara. One sabeka no one so a juma de way or man name. Okay. See them is share na say around osi ho.
You BOST o say a cast BOST. You can say your chrono ne nema no. Yes. And then you who ye say there's hope in BOST. Then no kakra fanya BOST ne mo profitability. Ne ade almost mo pese reserve bi baba nanka. Abuana Ghana 6 weeks of oil I think Kenya. And 2 weeks.
Very good. BOST. They na ye story BOST ne story. Say BOST dina. They be contaminated fuel. Ye there or ye cow. Ye chade basa. In the BOST a story a yatin. Chade a cow wadanan. Diaba a profitable operations. The William Faso. And see first time turn around. But what work on him? Ma them a make a say only governance, corporate governance, board of directors, one and no management team, one and not now or any management team bring juma. Mama ye hun boss story a walking or fanekwan. Only His Excellency Nenyido Adiwu. Then yeah, Osiho as board of directors. Mosiho as manager and management team, I want to appoint one. What why you them Jumea already? Amama Wakwayim. Often Nehenso as Ghanaians and a Ganamba. As we end the year, baby order yetia tax and a yetia levy. You're not setting ye betia. Amama strategic stocks and I the over there BOST. What will save fuel? Amama say BB Kocho will be adding baby around for 1.5 months. Not so Ghana. You will fear you did the engine. Or there has you ended to the BOST margin, levy now there. If you are 3 pesos, fitting cano, yen 2, my boss, Oguru Waya there, yet 2. And see, them is saying, or ye me as minister, or ye Director General SIGA, or your boss MD, or your boss board of directors, or your Ghana, no so ye net beneficiary. Obiari ne applied your woman or man be konenyim ma henyina so yenya edwuma so most importantly ma me refill say companies ni nyina 175 entities if all in will grow, growing means worrying and fashion. Worrying and fashion, chere, one and fashion, what they are Japani. It means that they are doing expansion. Or your employment statement here. Employment statement here. Because they get a new facility. Nipa no work, contractor no work, ordinary boys work. But the old bokawa. End of the day, or the crowd or the brand also taxpayers.
General, you see your monitoring of this 175 companies as a minister, this new ministry.
Honoring the Wadia Shemensa, Amerbeye, true SIGA. Honoring the Wadia Shemensa, Amerbeye, true SIGA. It's a make catch media so today. One for one state enterprises no say. Osanda Ghana no so obeko, ni for mebeko of state enterprises. Because sika yedi ashe hon as a Ghana ni investment no also papa and see often the record media so you're interested in performance of the state enterprises. I want to over His Excellency Juma already will also.
Thank you.